Hello guys, welcome to my SQL series on LearnIn. My name is Nse. Today we are going to continue with refining selections. Remember that in the previous video we talked about refining selections where we said that refining selections is using additional clauses to filter and narrow down the data received from a database. We went on to talking about some of these clauses, like the distinct clause, like the order by clause, and so on. Today we are going to talk about the where clause. Where clause is used to filter rows in a table based on specific conditions or condition. It can help you to extract only those rows that fulfill a specified condition or conditions. The syntax is like so. You have select, then you specify the columns that are up for consideration. You have from, you specify the table name, then you have the where clause. After the where clause, you have the condition. Let's head over to command line client and see some examples. Here in the command line client, I'll enter my password and hit enter. The first thing I want to do is select the database to use. To do this, I want to see the databases I currently have. So I would show databases, end with a semicolon, and I'll hit enter. These are the databases that are currently present in the server. Now I want to use the bookstore database, so I'll simply type use and then I'll have bookstore semicolon. I'll hit enter. Now database has changed, but to be sure that it changed to the bookstore database, I'm going to type the query select database parenthesis semicolon, hit enter. So I have my confirmation here. Database in use currently is the bookstore database. Now within the bookstore database, I'd like to see the tables available. So I'll type show tables semicolon, hit enter. These are the tables that are in the bookstore database. I want to use the employees table. To explain the where clause, remember that while working with the where clause, the syntax is like so. You're going to have the select keyword and then specify the columns that you want to use and then specify the table name. So in this case, where we have table name, we will be using employees because employees table is the table that we're working with currently. So back here in the command line client, let's type select. What we saw in the syntax is select and then some columns listed, but I want to select everything. So I'd have star and then I'd say from. The table name, remember, is employees, and then would have the where clause and the condition that I want to work with is where last name is Smith. So I'd have last name. Remember that in our table we have the last name column, so I would say where last name is Smith, end with a semicolon, and I'll hit enter. Now notice that it is only employees with the last name of Smith that's returned to us. And that's because the condition that we set here is that last name should be equal to Smith. Let's say that we had another query with the where clause, and this time let's say where age is between 20 and 35. Let's hit enter. Notice that we have this data shown to us with ages that are between 20 and 35 years old. If you look within this age column, you're not going to see any age that's less than 20. Neither are you going to see any age that's more than 35. It might help to order by. So we are going to say where age between 20 and 35, order by age. Remember, we talked about order by in the previous video. If you would want to see this video, I have provided the link in the description. So now we have the same data shown to us as we had in this table, but this time it is ordered by age. So we have the ages listed from the least to the highest, and in our condition we say that we want ages between 20 and 35. So within the age column, the least age that we have is 28. That means that we don't have any employee that's 20 years or 21 years or up to 27 years. That's why the least age shown to us is 28. And all the way it kept increasing until we got to 35. This shows that everything here is arranged in ascending order. Let's select age from employees, order by age. Let's hit enter. So I did this just to further show to us that the youngest age that we have in our employees table is 28. So that's why in this case, even though the lower limit provided is 20, the least age shown to us is 28. I hope that that's clear. Let's say that we had this query, select star from employees, where last name is equal to Smith. And notice here that Smith is spelled without the last H. And let's just hit enter to execute this query. Now notice that we have an empty set returned. MySQL cannot find any employees with the last name of Smith. That's Smith spelled without an H. If you look in our employees table, you're going to notice that every Smith we have ends with an H, whereas in this query Smith does not have that ending H. So we have an empty set returned. Now there may be cases where you're not entirely sure, you're not certain of the exact value that you are looking for. Like in the case of Smith, I know that there is a Smith name in the table, but I'm not really sure how it is spelled. In a situation like this, you would hardly be able to get any data returned to you working with just the where clause, because the where clause has to be an exact match. In this case, because we are missing that last age, we do not have anything returned to us. This is where the like operator comes in. Like operator is used with where clause to search for a specified pattern in a column. It is used in performing basic search. The syntax is like so: you simply have select the columns that you want to consider from, then you provide the table name, where column name, and you use the like keyword, and then you provide the pattern. Now, while working with the like operator, you would introduce some wildcards. A wildcard is simply a character used to substitute one or more characters in a string. Commonly used wildcards with the like operator are the %sign. The %sign is used to represent 0 or more characters. It could represent one or multiple characters in a string. It can be used to match any sequence of characters of any length. For example, the pattern like that we have here, A with the %sign, would match any string that starts with the letter A. Let's head over to command line client and let's have this query. And remember that when we used Smith, we did not have any data returned to us. So now we are using the %sign. So we have select star from employees, where last name like, we have the %sign, and then we have Smith that is not completely spelled. So now working with this Smith that is not completely spelled, we have been able to have data returned to us just by using this %sign. This %sign, remember, it can be used to match any sequence of characters of any length. It represents 0, 1, or multiple characters in a string. So where you fairly just have an idea of what you want, or where you want something that is not the exact match from a table. For instance, where you have a pattern in mind to return, you can use the like operator with the %sign. Let's say that I want to select star from employees, where first name, and then I would say like the %sign. I'd have the %sign start and end the string, and I have to wrap it in quotes, and then I'll end with semicolon. So this here is the pattern. From the start of the %sign to the end of the %sign is the pattern. Let's hit enter. Now notice that every first name that contains NS has been shown to us. In the 4 values returned, we have NS, even though at various points. Here we have NS as the first 2 characters. Here we have NS as the last two characters, and here we have NS as the middle characters. So that's why we say that it can be used to match any sequence of characters as long as we have NS within any first name, then we would have such first name listed as the output of running this query. So as we have seen here, running this query returns any rows from the employees table where the first name column contains the substring NS, regardless of what characters come before or after NS. Now let's see another example. Let's say select star. This time we'll just have, let's say, OE like that. Let's hit enter. We'll have an empty set because we do not have any first name that has that pattern. Let's try with the last name, and we have just one row returned to us, and that's the row with the last name that contains this pattern, the OE pattern, and that's Joe. So we have say Joe returned. Now let's talk about another wild card, the underscore. Underscore is used to represent a single character in a string. It can be used to match a single character at a specific position. Let's head back to command line client and see some examples. Let's have select star from employees where first name, and then we have the like keyword, and we have an underscore, we have 0, and then we have two more underscores and closing quotation and then semicolon. Now what this query means is within the first name column of the employees table, find names that have exactly 4 letters where the second letter is O. So if you check in the output given to us, the first name of the 3 employees returned have 4 characters. That's because within this pattern we have 4 characters, 1 underscore, letter O, and then 2 underscores that follow. That makes 4 characters. So within the first name column, currently all the names returned have 4 characters, and the second character is letter O. I hope that that's clear. Let's say that we wanted to find employees whose last names have exactly 5 letters, where the third letter is letter A. Would simply have last name, and the pattern, because we want the third character to be letter A, would have 2 underscores, 1, 2, and then letter A, and we want 5 characters, so would add 2 more underscores to make this pattern 5 characters and would hit enter. The only employee that meets this condition is John, whose last name is Mayani. This is a 5-character word with letter A in the third position, just like we have in this pattern that we provided. We can work with both percent sign and underscore wildcards in the same query. Let's say that we want to find employees whose first names have exactly 6 letters and the last name ends with SON. So we would have a query that looks like this: select star from employees where first name like, we want the first name to have exactly 6 letters with no specific characters in mind. So would have 6 underscores, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, wrapped in quotes, and last name like will have SON, and semicolon would hit enter. We have an empty set returned to us because we do not have any names that meet the set conditions. Let's still work with this query. Select star from employees where first name like, you want 7 characters, and last name that contains SON. Let's hit enter. Now notice that we have just one employee that meets the condition, and that's Johnson. That's what returned to us. Johnson has first name of 7 characters, and Johnson's last name contains the pattern SON. Remember that underscore in the like operator represents any single character, and you can use it in combination with other characters and percent sign to create more complex pattern matching conditions. Keep in mind, however, that using many wildcards might result in unintended matches. So use them with care and ensure that the pattern accurately represents the data that you want to retrieve. One last concept that I want to talk about before we end today is escaping the wildcards. We have used wildcards in establishing some patterns. We have used the percent sign and we have used the underscore. Now, when you want to set for a literal percent sign or underscore in the data, you would have to differentiate the literal percent sign or underscore from the wildcard. Let's use percent sign as an example. When you want to set for a literal percent sign in the data rather than using it as a wildcard, you have to tell MySQL that, look, this percent sign here is a literal character. It's not a wildcard. I want values that contain percent sign. In this case, you would have to escape it. And escaping it is done using the backslash character. Let's see an example. Using our employees table still, let's say that we want to find employees whose first names contain percent sign character. In that case, we would have select star from employees where first name like. Remember that in this case we would use the percent sign. Now the character that we want to consider is the percent character. So that means that we would have something that looks like this. Now, to differentiate the wildcard percent characters, which are the first and the last percent characters. From the literal percent character that we are trying to search for, then we would use the backslash key right before the literal percent character. Now this is going to tell my SQL that the second percent character here is not a wildcard. My SQL will know and treat it as a literal percent character. Now let's execute this query. I forgot the semicolon, so it simply started a new line. Now let's have a semicolon and then let's hit enter. Notice now that we have one employee whose first name contains the and that's this Wilson here, and that's what's returned to us. So always remember to use the backslash to differentiate a literal percent sign from the wildcard percent sign. Let's see another example, this time using the underscore. Let's say select star from employees where first name contains 4 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an underscore. So in that case, we would have backslash escaping it. Then this is the underscore that we want to consider, and after the underscore we want 4 more characters, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's close the quotation, have a semicolon and hit enter. Now notice that we have one employee returned to us, the employee with the name of Mary Jane, because that's the only first name that meets this pattern. It has an underscore after the first 4 characters, and it still has 4 characters ending it after the underscore. Notice that we used the backslash key here to tell my SQL that this underscore here is not a wildcard. It is a literal underscore. By using the backslash to escape the wildcards, you can perform more specific pattern matching and search for data containing literal occurrences of the percent sign or underscore in the database. I really hope that you get the point. If you have any questions or comments, please say them in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Learn In. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.